Hey guys! Today I'm going to do another musical appreciation video, and today's will be about Rebecca.
Ich hab geträumt von Mandeli.
Before I start, let me say sorry for the weird lighting. I am filming this at night. I filmed all my other ones during the day, so I'm used to having this huge light here through my curtain, which isn't really a curtain, as you can see. I need new ones. Anyways, so this appreciation video will be a little bit different because I've never actually seen Rebecca, because if you haven't noticed, it's not English. It was supposed to come to Broadway in 2012, and right before it opened or started previews, there was all this, maybe you've heard of it, there was all this fraud with the investors, and it wasn't really settled until this year, and I don't even know if it's settled. I didn't really look into it that much, to be honest. I was just like, I need Rebecca to come to Broadway. It is just a beautiful musical, and the music is incredible, and I really, really need to come to Broadway, and I haven't given up hope yet completely. I'm still hoping that someone will come along someday, somewhere down the line, and say, oh yes, this needs to be on Broadway. I have heard Rebecca in English. It was a demo, so it was kind of like a musical audiobook, and it honestly didn't really do the show justice, and I believe it was done before the first production in Vienna, which was like 2006, 2007. Could be wrong on those dates. I'm not really good at paying attention to those because I'm just like so captivated by the show itself. So to give you an idea of what Rebecca looks like, just look at that. Look at that set. Look at those costumes. But it keeps opening up. Oh, I don't want to bend it. Oh, wow, these are so big. I love these flyers. Here's a little bit closer up. The lighting's not going to be good, I'm sorry. But I have more to show you. But let's first do a little bit of history. Rebecca started off as a book by Daphne du Maurier in 1938, I believe. And it was adapted many times to screen. There's the original movie from 1940, late 30s, around that. That was the original movie. Then it was adapted by BBC as a miniseries, and then adapted by PBS for another miniseries. Personally, out of the movie versions, I don't know, I have to say this one's my favorite, only because it was the most accurate to the book, and there's some scenes that are just really aesthetically pleasing, but at the same time, this one's really aesthetically pleasing. Although, I like the acting in this one the best, but I don't particularly care for the changes they've made, because they're really drastic, and they aren't really true to the characters, I guess. They've made Maxim really different. If you're familiar with the characters, I'll get to that in a minute, but they just, I don't know. So one of these are my favorite. Depends on the day. I do watch this one the most, though. Back to the book. In a nutshell, Rebecca is about a young woman who we know as I. There is no name given to her, so you can either call her I or the second Mrs. De Winter. In the musical, she's referred to as I, so that's what I call her. She meets a man named Maxim De Winter, whose wife has recently passed away within the past year, and there's a lot of mystery around her death. How she died, why she died, those kinds of things. Everyone assumes that she was lost at sea during a storm, or if her rock hit something when she was sailing at night, but even that was questionable given who this woman was, and that woman is Rebecca. I marries Maxim pretty shortly after they meet because she doesn't want to go back to New York with the woman she's working for. She's a paid companion, so she's basically the errand girl and just keeps this woman company. She's a rich New York lady. She doesn't really know much about Maxim, but she's just in love with him, so she marries him and they have a great honeymoon. And then a month later, they go back to Manderley, which is Maxim's home, and it is this famous home in Cornwall. Right away, I is kind of hated among the staff, namely by Mrs. Danvers. Explaining Mrs. Danvers would take much too long for this video, at least for me, because I will go into every layer of this character, and we don't have time for that. Long story short, Mrs. Danvers was Rebecca's maid, and she worshipped the ground she walked on. Naturally, she's not going to be I's biggest fan. I is not oblivious to this dislike by everyone, and especially Mrs. Danvers, and she feels like she's living in Rebecca's shadow, which she is. So she goes on, she's not changing anything, she's just trying to be a regular wife of a millionaire. I'm explaining this so badly because I'm not good at nutshells. As time goes on, I realizes that she really doesn't know anything more about Maxim than when they first met. Slowly, she tries to get him to open up, and he just never does. He has a bad temper. Her only friends are Frank, who is Maxim's best friend, and her in-laws. I don't know how to go much further without giving the story away, and I don't know if you haven't read this yet and want to, if it's on your read list or whatever, if you're going to watch the movie. I don't want to give the plot away, so I'll wrap this up by saying that Mrs. Danvers' hate for I gets stronger, and when Rebecca's body is found, there's even more mystery and controversy about her death, which is an incredible strain on Maxim and I's marriage. So now that you know the plot, let's get back to the musical. I'm not going to go through every page of this. I'm just going to go to some of the bigger pictures like this, give you some more idea of what the musical looks like. I have not seen this musical, as I said before, because it is from Austria. It originated in Austria and then went to Switzerland and then Germany. I always forget about the Switzerland production. This is Mrs. Van Hopper. This is I. This is Maxim. And there's Mrs. Danvers. So as I said, there was 3 different productions, and out of all of them, I have to say that my favorite is the original Vienna cast, because so many of my favorite people are in that, and it is just, I think it's the best. I love the Germany cast as well, because there's more of my favorite people in it, but there's something about the original production that captivates me completely. Look at that! The stage is on fire every night! That's like everything you could want from a musical! Seeing as I haven't had any personal experiences with this musical, it's pretty hard for me to do the same kind of video as I did for Bandstand. But I thought it would be interesting to do a musical from Germany, as I love those so much, and actually because of them, my love for theater grew stronger than it was before. Like, before I got into these musicals, I was kind of like jumping back and forth between the same 4 musicals, but this broadened my horizons big time and was teaching me another language. I honestly can't remember a time when I hadn't heard these songs. They are masterpieces. Even if you don't speak German, which I don't, please give this musical a listen, because you really don't need to understand them. If you're familiar with the story, I guess that is better, but to enjoy this music, you don't need to know the story. The vocals, like, this is the Vienna Castle. This is the one you saw here. The vocals are flawless. The orchestrations are flawless. I would honestly pass these CDs out for free if I had enough money to import them all from Germany. But it is on Spotify. All 3 cast recordings are on Spotify, so there is nothing stopping you from going to Spotify right now and searching Rebecca the Musical. I'll do a closer up of each CD, even though you can see my lovely little setup here. This is a highlight CD from the Vienna production, the original one, which there's only been one, but it was also the original production of Rebecca. This, and another reason why I love German musicals, is the entire Vienna cast. Another problem with importing CDs, you're never going to get a case that isn't broken. And then finally, there's this one from Stuttgart. I might be saying that wrong. Oops. This is the full show as well. It has the fabulous Pia Daubs in it. So no matter which one you listen to, you're listening to a superstar. The story of how I got into German musicals is a long one, and it doesn't really go with this musical because I'd already discovered German musicals before I got into this. I actually, like I said earlier, I listened to the English demo, and I listened to it because it had some of my favorites. It had Uwe Kroger, it had Pia Daubs, who did go on to be Mrs. Danvers on stage, and Micah Bordam, and I love them, and I was like, yes, they all were in one musical, which I thought there was an English version for some reason. I don't know why. I thought it was in London because of this demo, but that's not really important. I loved the English demo, and like I also said, it didn't really do the show justice, so when I listened to the soundtrack, I listened to this one first, I was blown away. Oh my gosh. I guess I wanted this to be my first show I haven't seen appreciation video because of how much of my life this musical has taken up, because I've read the book, of course, and I'm not the fastest reader in the world because I basically reread every chapter a million times. All the movies are incredible, or miniseries, like 3 hours, 4 hours. This one's not that long, I don't believe. Yeah, an hour and a half. And then it kind of went on from there because I got into other books by Daphne du Maurier, and she's not my favorite author. I've read My Cousin Rachel. I'm reading Jamaica Inn right now. I've read Frenchman's Creek. But Rebecca will always be my favorite. I guess I got into the story like anything else I get into is because I had a character that I really related to, which in this case was I. And it's more in the beginning of the book where I relate to her because a lot of the same qualities, and for me, as it's told in her perspective, what I love about Daphne du Maurier books is that you see an in-depth character growth of the protagonist, which in this case is told in I's perspective. So for me, it was like, okay, so I'm a lot like her here, and it was inspiring to see that, okay, I can get to here sometime. I'm sappy like that. It was good at that time in my life to have discovered the story, and especially as it opened my eyes to yet more worlds through books. I don't know what else to say since I haven't seen the show and there's not a production currently running. It actually just finished a run in the outdoor theater. I'm going to mispronounce the name, so I'm not even going to try to say it, but somewhere in Germany, I believe it was Germany. But Pia was Mrs. Danvers again, and I really wish I could have seen it. Please bring Rebecca to Broadway! So I don't end this video on that desperate note. I want to tell you guys that I have changed my Instagram, one of my Instagrams, if you've seen below, if you've followed me through there. It was Theater and Things, but I have changed it, and I'm in the process of changing it, I'll say. I'm changing it to TheatricalWanderings to match my vlog. So please remember to check that out below. You can follow my geeky account, which is I Dreamed of Manderley, which is from this musical. And you can also follow me on Tumblr at Grace Farrell. And that's a smooth lead in to my next video, which will be an Annie video. I have a question and answer going on my Annie Instagram. If you have any questions, you can comment. It's on the Q&A picture on Orphan Annie Fan, orphan_Annie_fan. Yeah, that's right. I'm hoping to have that one up in a few days. That might be a bigger video just because I have a lot to say about Annie. I have a lot of stories about Annie, and then, of course, the questions and answers, which will probably fill up most of the time in the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.